Scotland against South Africa this weekend, folks, from Murrayfield. I have just rolled out of bed here this morning in New Zealand, knowing that the lineups would have been named overnight, my time. Had a look, Scotland 6-2 split, and then, boom, South Africa 7-1. Haven't seen that one for a wee while, but we will go through the squads, some of the recent history between these sides, the stats, predictions. You guys can let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because we've still got more rugby previews to come. But the Scots, on the back of a big win over a understrength Fijian side last week. It was an understrength Scottish side as well, although they're at least able to name the same forward pack as that played last week. So I feel like in the scheme of things, the Fijians were still missing more kind of top tier players. But that being said, they still absolutely put the Fijians to the sword. For the world rankings the way they were, you would have thought that game would have been a bit closer. So Scotland very emphatic last week. But then they got the Springboks coming to town, and still that dark cloud hanging over them from last year, where they go into this one at the World Cup where it's like genuinely one of the better Scottish sides ever, great attacking side, and then they were kept to only 3 points at that Rugby World Cup. So they'll be looking to at least score a few more than 3 this time. As I mentioned, the same forward pack, Schoeman, Ashman, and Xander Fagerson in the front row. They will be looking to at least hold up that big Springbok pack at scrum time. Gilchrist and Cummings in the second row. They've been really kind of high work rate for quite some time now. Line-out ball has largely been pretty secure, partially thanks to these guys. In the back row, Darge at 7 is perhaps the standout guy last week in terms of how many tackles he got through, winning ball at the breakdown, but Matt Fagerson and Jack Dempsey are there as well. Jack Dempsey loves a big ball carry from number 8, chock through a heap of run meters against the Fijians. But that's one of the areas the Scottish guys struggled last year. I don't mean to harp on too much about that last year game, but just getting front foot ball against the big Bok pack sometimes can be an issue. So if they can get at least, decent forward carry, they'll be putting themselves in a better position to have a chance in this game, because they do go into it as underdogs despite being at home. New 19 combo this week though. Ben White is available, Finn Russell is available. Both these guys play their rugby outside of Edinburgh and Glasgow, so they had to kind of sit last week, as last week's match was outside of the international test window, but they are back. Finn Russell, a lot's going to be talked about him. We all know what he can do. It's whether he can do it against the Springbok defensive line that will be an issue, because as I mentioned, they only got 3 points last year. Geez, I'm talking about that a lot. I don't mean to talk about that so much. I'm going to talk some lovely stuff about Scotland soon, but yeah, he just needs to be able to find that space. Find that space against the on-rushing Springbok defenders. The midfield is the same, Tuipulotu and Jones. Boy, were they sharp last week. I mean, Hugh Jones had like 5 clean breaks, which is more than some teams get in an entire game. But again, different prospect this week with a tougher defensive outfit in the box. Blair Kinghorn comes into the side. He's another one who's available this week, having sat last week on the right wing in the place of the injured Darcy Graham. It really is unfortunate that Darcy is not available, because he's a cracking wee winger. But I mean, Blair Kinghorn's pretty class and also very good under the high balls. Duhan van der Merwe had 146 meters last week. 25 against the Boks at the last time they played, so yep. And Tom Jordan, the exciting Tom Jordan, who looked very comfortable in his test debut from the bench last week. He comes in at fullback. Remember, Kyle Rowe took a bit of a knock in that game last week, so Tom Jordan will be a little bit of a surprise package there at fullback. Very exciting attacking-minded player. If there is a guy, like if there's a back 3 to get some run meters against the Boks, you feel like these guys could potentially be them. Replacements, Dylan Richardson, Rory Sutherland, and Elliot Miller-Mills. So Miller-Mills is into the side after not playing last week. Max Williamson's the lock replacement. You still got Josh Bayless. Well, you got Josh Bayless and Jamie Ritchie coming in as your Lucy's. So it is a 6-2 split for the Scots, looking to get that bit of extra physicality. The 2 back replacements are Jamie Dobby and Stafford McDowell. Good thing about Dobby is he can also cover the back 3, or at least wing. Don't know if he plays fullback, but he can play wing. Kinghorn can slot him to fullback if needs be. So, yeah, that's the Scottish side. Rank 7 in the world. At home, Rassie reckons any side in that position can potentially take down a top 3 side, with the Boks in second at the moment. For the Boks, as I mentioned, 7-1 split. 7-1 split. It's the ultimate gamble. Is it the ultimate gamble? I mean, I guess you could go like 8-0 or something, but it's always a gamble. It only takes one crucial injury early in the game to make a 7-1 split look like a bad idea. But it has the potential to be a phenomenal idea. So it is a gamble, but you've got guys who are versatile enough to at least give a bit of reassurance in case there are those injuries. Forward pack. Ox, Inche, Bongi Mbanabi, Thomas Dutoy. Thomas Dutoy comes in after not playing in that final game of the Rugby Championship at tight head, but Bongi and Ox continue on. They will certainly be looking to turn the screws at scrum time, as they've done to virtually everybody this year. The locks, Eben Etzebeth captains the side, with Sio Kolisi being on the bench. And Franco Mostert is back. We haven't seen him in Springboks colours for a while with injury, so that's a good bit of an addition to the squad, because they've had multiple guys out. If you think we haven't seen Diacha for a very long time, Snyman only just recently made his return to box colours, and Mostert being back now certainly means the Springbok locking depth is looking a bit better, even if Nokia is now out injured. The loose forwards, Van Staden at 6, Lowe at 7, and Smith at 8. I believe it is Quokka Smith's 50th game, so he gets a start for this one. He's often been that kind of super sub guy, and in the 7-1 split setup, you feel like he's going to be a guy who potentially covers some positions in the back line in a pinch. Hopefully not needed, but we could well see it. Good to see Elric Lowe there, starting this time after being on the bench in the Springboks last game to add a bit of physicality on the ball carry. And you can bet Marco van Staden will get through some tackles until Kolisi comes on to replace him. Backs, Jaden Hendrickse continues on at 9, so he's getting a bit more game time in the kind of Springboks number 9 jersey, with a bunch of guys all getting game time in that jersey. You know, you've had Reinach, de Klerk still not available. You've had Grant Williams, he's on the bench for this one. So there's been multiple guys getting a bit of game time. This time it's Jaden Hendrick's turn to get some more minutes, and Andre Pollard is alongside him. So potentially a kind of slightly safer option from Rassie. Potentially looking to keep the scoreboard ticking over with some 3-pointers. Love the midfield of Esterhuizen and They've played so much rugby together. Remember, even way back in the day before Andre Esterhuizen went over to Harlequins, these guys played together for a few years at the Sharks. They were a great combo back then. And I love the fact that they get to kind of do this again at Springboks level. Esterhuizen's such a big direct ball runner, and Lukanya Arm's got a skill set to die for. So, yeah, I'm pleased with that. And the back three is all changed, with Mapimpi, the veteran, coming back in on the left. You got Kana Moody coming in on the right. And to be fair, like, Kana Moody hasn't looked... He's had really limited game time, but, I mean, Aronsa and Colby have been playing so well, he's not looked like one of the best Springboks wingers, and he's a bloody good winger. So, yeah, it's a good chance for him to impress now that he's given some game time. And then the veteran, Willie Leroux, also there at fullback, will be looking to pull some strings. Replacements, Marks, Steenekamp, and Koch, same front row replacements that we saw the last time the Boks played. Snyman is there, Kolisi, Peter Steff, and Visa. Those are all forwards, so they're going to add some absolute punch, especially if they all come on at the same time. And then Grant Williams is into the side. He covers halfback and potentially wing, because he is absolute lightning. But as I mentioned, 7-1 split. She is a bit of a gamble. Some stats. I've got some stats for you because I love looking at them. And I told you I was going to say some nice things about Scotland. Scotland have got some nice stats. Like, albeit last time when they played the Boks, like, you know, that year they were averaging 500 plus run meters. They were limited to 200 something. They didn't score any tries. That was the only game last year they didn't score any tries. It's not just about their attack. Their defence this year has been largely pretty solid. They've only conceded 30 points in one game, and I believe that was against the Italians. But remember, it is something of a resurgent Italian side. They didn't even concede 20 against the Irish. Admittedly, they did lose the game, but defensively they've been pretty solid. They got a great tackling percentage. They concede very few clean breaks, like for all the Tier 1 teams. Their stats overall for the season or the year are a little bit kind of boosted by the fact that they did go on the Tour of the Americas, which is perhaps not as challenging an opposition as some of the other sides placed, but faced it. But even if you isolate down to Six Nations there, their numbers are still pretty good defensively. And no one really talks about the defensive numbers because you've got guys like Duane van der Merwe and Darcy Graham and Sione Tuipulotu, Hugh Jones and whatnot, who are Finn Russell, these absolute attacking threats. But the Scottish defensive game tends to be very good. And then they do have that attacking game. Like Sione Tuipulotu is in career form for the last, I don't know, how long has it been? 12 months, 18 months? His ability to just take the ball to the line and just pop it out the back as he's drawn defenders and set someone else up into some space. It's proper thing of beauty stuff. So if they can get even half of that going, they'll perform a lot better than they did in that World Cup game. And if they can keep these defensive numbers high against the Boks, we're in for a proper test match. For the Boks, they will look to control possession and territory. They've done it the vast majority of their games this year. I believe this year the only game the Boks have not had more than 50% possession is that game they lost at home to Ireland. The Boks like the ball. So it is hard to beat a team if you can't get the ball. Not always. Some teams are good on the break, but that tends to be South Africa's game plan. And as I mentioned, like kind of the stereotype with the Scots about it all being about the attack, everyone only talks about the block forwards, and it'll be the same with the 7-1 split. But you got to remember, if you look at the Rugby Championship, which they just won, they led the way for tries. They led the way for run meters. They led the way for clean breaks. This is a competition which features the All Blacks, who tend to get the kind of, stereotype of being the team which dominates all those stats. So the Boks had all those numbers as well. So the Boks are a fantastic attacking team with their backs. Their line-out has been a little bit shakier than we are used to, but as I mentioned, they have had a number of locks out, which has not helped the things. But also, their fourth quarter is bonkers. Their fourth quarter is really where the Boks put teams to the sword, where they win games. Like if you're looking at the points difference per each quarter for the Boks, like this year, they're at plus 38 points for the first quarter, plus 15 for the second, plus 38 for the third. So there's all kind of much of a muchness in those. Fourth quarter, they're at plus 80. They outscore opponents handily in the fourth quarter. It's tended to be a thing with this Boks side, which is usually a pretty good sign. Although they do give away a lot of yellow cards this year as well. They've averaged, I think, over a yellow card a game. They've played, 10 games? They've only had 3 games with no yellow cards. So if the Scots can keep 15 guys on the field, keep that defence solid, and the Boks get a card or two, because there have been double, triple yellow card games for the Boks this year. As I mentioned, it could put a cat amongst the pigeons, but recent history, it's all Boks. 5-0 over the last 5, which goes back to 2014, so a decade ago. Last Scotland win over the Boks is 2010, so there will be some youngsters who will be at this game. If you're a Boks fan or if you're a Scottish fan, some will have never seen their team lose, or some will have never seen their team win against this opposition. So it has been a while. Average across the last 5 games has been 33-12, so it's been pretty comfortable for the Boks against Scotland. I think the closest was 26-20 at Edinburgh back in 2018. Boks are the favourites for this one. The rugby forecast algorithm says by 5. The bookies go a step further. The bookies are saying by 10. So pretty comfortable favourites. But if it's within a score at the death, who knows? I'm hoping so. Hoping for a good game. Murrayfield, as I mentioned, is the venue. It's a sellout. It's an afternoon game, 4:10 kickoff. I think that's early evening for you guys in South Africa. That'll be a pretty early morning for those of us here in New Zealand, but wouldn't miss this one for the world. It'll be a bloody Monday for us here in New Zealand as well. Christoph Ridley, the Englishman, is the referee. You guys let us know your thoughts on how you reckon this one is going to go. Do you see the Scots having a potential upset on the cards, or do you think the Boks with their 7-1 split are going to be too good? If you loved all the stats and the lineups and whatnot, feel free to drop us a like or a comment or a subscription. I would love to see them all. It's great to see you guys here. Thank you so much. And yes, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Ta-ra.